Hello, my name's Adam and I work as a Microsoft Certified Trainer and Assessor for Ritual.
Nice to meet you, Adam. I'm Jonathan Goodall, Quality Manager at Ritual.
Cool.
So we're here to talk about Microsoft Security Solutions. So talk to me about that.
Okay, so basically with Microsoft Security Solutions, there's a lot of benefits for using security with Microsoft in general. For example, you get things like multi-factor authentication and conditional access, which can be used to improve the security of your environment and help sort of reduce the vulnerabilities to users in your organization.
Okay, so talk to me a little bit more about vulnerabilities.
Of course. So things like, so when I talk about sort of multi-factor authentication and conditional access, multi-factor authentication helps improve the security of logons and access in your organization, because rather than just your users using a simple username and password, they require some additional method of authentication on top of that.
Okay.
And most people use a phone with a text code, but you do get support for things like Microsoft's Authenticator app, and there's things like automated phone calls available and stuff like that as well. So it just means that if someone is logging in, they need an additional device to authenticate. And also if somebody gets your password, then it helps prevent password breach, because you still need the additional method of authentication to log in.
Okay. So that from a user's point of view, and you're going through that as a user, what's the benefit of that?
The benefit of that is, firstly, if someone tries to log in with your account, usually you'll get some sort of authentication request on your phone. Like a good example of this is if someone tries to log into my internet banking account, it sends a text code to my phone. Microsoft, you can do the same sort of thing with things like 365.
Okay.
And the idea is the user will then see on the phone, oh, somebody's tried to log into my account. And again, you could just take a good security practice by changing your password or doing something like that.
Yeah.
But it just helps you be aware as a user.
Okay.
As an admin, it adds those additional layers of security to your organization as well.
Okay, so it's just safety, making sure that you're safe.
Definitely.
Okay, what else?
Okay, what else? So there is also conditional access. So I mentioned this video recently. Your end users won't understand what conditional access is, really, or most of them won't. But conditional access, simplified, is effectively just a set of restrictions on logins as such. So what this means is when your end users must log in, it can be things like they must be a member of a group. It might be where they can only log in with their work devices.
Okay.
It might require MFA, as I've just mentioned, and it might require the device to be joined to the domain. Now, a way that can help with your organization is with things like information leakage. So usually, like if you take Ritual as an example, usually when we access Ritual's sensitive information, you would only want your Ritual's work devices accessing that. We wouldn't want my personal laptop at home accessing things like SharePoint and OneDrive. It's not, although you can, it's not really the most secure way of doing stuff. So what you could do is you could create a conditional access policy to only allow domain joined devices like my Ritual Surface to access the information. And again, it just gives you nice little security protocols like that to help with improving the security of your business.
Yeah, it's a really sort of plus point for your business then.
Yes, definitely.
Amazing. Anything else?
Yeah, of course. So let's talk about some of the other things. Recently, I was on a little look at some of the benefits of Microsoft 365 attack simulation. So this is not a brand new feature, but it's relatively new in the last couple of years. It was in public preview for a while.
Okay.
So if you're not familiar, public preview is just where Microsoft release features for you to try. But again, they may not work perfectly. But anyway, so
Try before you buy.
Try before you buy. Brilliant way of putting it. So with attack simulation, what you can do is you can simulate an attack on your organization. And there are many ways of doing this. You can either, I've seen it where you can send a zip file with an executable included, and you can send that out to your end users. Or we did it recently where you send out like an email and it's fake. There's lots of other things where you can send fake messages and stuff like that. And those messages will contain links. And it'll do a couple of different things, or benefits of it will be that when your users click the link, it'll respond and say, this isn't a real attack, it's something set up by your IT department, and that's customizable as well.
Okay.
But the other major benefit is that it will tell your IT department who actually clicked the link.
Okay.
So if you've got people who are happy to put their details or happy to click unknown links, it will tell you in the organisation who's doing that.
Okay.
And that can map into end user training, because you can say, well, you've clicked the link, just be aware that you shouldn't be clicking links that you're not expecting.
Oh, that's really good. And again, from a user's point of view, it's that development for yourself, because you don't know what you don't know.
So it tracks into your personal development as well.
Perfect. Okay. Is there anything else security-wise linking with a Microsoft solution that you'd like to go through?
There's lots of things you can include. I always think of 365 when I sort of speak about this, because it's got a lot included in it, but not just Microsoft 365. So you've got things like Intune or Endpoint Manager. So Endpoint Manager can be used to manage devices in your organization. What you can do is you can set up things like configuration profiles and compliance policies to do things like restrict devices to make sure they either have BitLocker or they have a certain version of Windows installed on them. It can be things like there's a massive list of settings in it, but again, if there's a particular security setting that's beneficial to your organisation, you can enforce that through Endpoint Manager. You also have things like sensitivity labels and the AIP client to Advanced Information Protection. Azure Information Protection, not Advanced Information Protection. Got that completely wrong. So Azure Information Protection, and you can use this to sort of mark emails in your organisation. Now, with things like sensitivity labels, if users mark an email as something like confidential, they can also apply encryption to that email and mark it with watermarks, just to give it that little extra layer of protection.
Great. And again, from a business point of view, what would you say the benefits of that would be?
The benefits of it is just very much like what we do at Rizure with the AIP clients. The idea is that firstly, if you mark something confidential, you're making your end users aware. If you're adding encryption to it, you're protecting your email from unauthorized access. The other little benefits that you can do as well is you have things in 365 like anti-malware and anti-phishing. There's a few features in Defender that sort of where you can investigate risky users in your organisation that are accessing lots of links and sharing files and things like that, and you can create various policies just to track certain user behaviour, which is more beneficial to an IT department than an end user. So that's quite good. So yeah, there's lots of features in that. And then if you talk about things like Azure, you have things like role-based access control, where you can do what's called, and you have things like directory roles. Now, one thing I think is great to talk about here is what I call the principle of least privilege. So when I worked in IT, I was taught two things when assigning admin access or access to anything in general. And that is, one, you should always follow the principle of least privilege, and that is always assign the minimum of level access that user needs. Anything more is automatically a security risk.
Why would you say that?
Because if any user has more access than what they need, then there's the scope, hopefully they won't abuse it, but there is the scope that they can abuse that additional access. And if they abuse any of their access at all, the fact that they've got more than the minimum required means that more damage will get caused. Point two, they should only have it for the maximum time they need it for, not we need, sorry, they need it for. So when I worked in IT and I would assign admin accounts, there'd be an approval process in place, and you'd say, I need it till this date. You'd have to justify it and say, why would you need it for that long? And when the date's expired, you'd have to go back through that and say, can I have my admin account re-enabled? And you keep that separate, or keep the admin account separate to your standard domain account as well. So again, if you decide that user doesn't need that admin account, you just disable the account and continue as normal.
So what you're trying to do is building blocks in front of their products. You've got the blocks in front, give them as many blocks as you want. But then again, you want to take them away as you
So-
see
so-
fit.
So basically, you've got really granular control about
Yeah.
what they have access to and what they don't have access to.
Perfect. Yeah, that's-
There's other features that, by the way, what I've just mentioned, sorry, isn't just specific to Azure. You can do the same with 365 and general Active Directory access. So, Active Directory doesn't use the same admin accounts as 365 and Azure, but the principle's similar. The other cool thing I was looking at the other day was some of the features of Azure. You can set expiration dates on admin accounts.
It's really useful.
Yeah, exactly. So with if you're given a 365 admin role out, that maps across to the directory roles in Azure AD, and you can set things like expiration dates, and then you don't have to remember it because you might be busy in your role. You might think, "Oh, I forgot to disable that account."
Yeah.
That against security risk.
Yeah. Okay. So there's quite a lot of sort of precautions that you can put in place to primarily keep the business safe.
Definitely.
Anything else you'd like to add?
No, the only thing I'll sort of finish off with is we've spoken about all of these security things, but as I said in the previous video, you should never rely on IT for security in general. If you're an end user and you're watching this, when I say the term end user, don't have any admin roles, don't work in IT, don't click on links you're not expecting, don't open emails you're not expecting. If you get either of those, like we've had at Azure recently, report it to your IT team, report it to your manager.
Yeah.
Raise awareness about it. You can do the same in your personal life. So if you get to your personal email, you should see some of the things in the junk of my personal mailbox. I've got some bright things I can tell you. So
it's safety first.
Safety first, yeah, but it's really important. And also, just little things like not using the same password for everything, which some end users do, because then once they've got access to one thing, in theory, they've got access to everything.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for that.
Yeah, it was great to discuss this.
Cheers.